All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of Bullets, Barbells, and Barbecue. It's me, Brett, here as always. I got a special guest host here, two-time Super Bowl champ Dave Tollefson's here. And the most handsome man in the UFC is here, Drew Dober, in-house this time instead of just on the phone.
You know, I mean, I finally got the invite, so I feel special now.
It is. It's pretty exclusive.
He's not my type, but he is handsome.
He is. I mean, there's a lot of people who do a lot of weird gay stuff for Drew. I'm sure his
That's
fan
all
mail.
I say. Like, well, what's your type then, Dave? Depends.
Someone likes long walks on the beach, you know, maybe like a nice firm A cup as a man. Yeah. So Drew, you've been busy, man. You have a kid. Just came from International Fight Week, flying airplanes with the Air Force.
Yeah, busy outside of the cage, producing little humans and then making money without getting punched in the mouth, which is nice.
Ah, that's way better than getting in the face.
But when you're good at it, though.
Let's talk about your last fight a little bit. We know it was a loss, but that's all right, though. Without losses, there's not wins.
Yeah.
You know, you learn from everything. I know you and I have talked about it a little bit, but what do you think's your biggest lesson from that fight?
I mean, there's so many lessons. Take your opponent seriously is definitely one.
Always.
You know, I'm very big on staying active and keeping busy. But when you put less emphasis on opponents, then you just kind of dismiss their abilities. So I went into the fight, you know, just kind of dismissing what he's capable of. And the dude hits really hard.
Is that your hardest hit in the UFC, you think?
Possibly, yeah. I think actually, definitely. Yeah, I mean, he hit me the hardest. I think like every single fight in the UFC, I've been hit, but I was like coherent. Like, we're fine. Like, it's perfectly fine. Actually, I don't even remember getting hit. Like, we move on, you know? But yeah, when Matt Favola hit me, then like the room spun. You know, I felt buzzed. And so, you know, some guys are just born with punching power. Like, they got that death touch. I was blessed with it, and I just disregarded, you know, he had the same thing moving in. So I was a little reckless. I kind of just didn't even think about it. And so it was just poor fight IQ.
So I'm going to ask some questions of you in the fight game because I'm not super familiar with it. But like in football, we watch a ton of film. Do you feel like that's something pre-fight that you could have done more of to prevent that? Like when you talk about maybe not being prepared like you should have, what are those things maybe?
Yeah. So for me, it's not so much film watching. Like, so like I watch film, like, you know, if they like left-handed, right-handed, how tall they are, what are their tendencies, right? But my big thing about watching film is they're not fighting me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so he's going to come in with a different game plan, fighting me. And on the negative side of things, you know, I'm watching Matt Favola like knock other people out, and I'm thinking to myself like, yeah, but he's not fighting me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
but he was still capable of that in our fight. So I think it's not so much film watching; it's more so just having the recognition of like my strengths and weaknesses, and also just coming in with the idea of like I'm not invincible.
Yeah.
I need to, you know, make advancement also.
But gosh, feeling invincible is part of the game, right?
Yeah.
Like that. You're saying so many things that make so much sense to me football wise. My coach in New York for those 5 years, he's a big John Wooden guy. So we didn't watch a ton of film. It was like, they haven't played us. We're going to do what we're really good at, and they have to react to what we do. There's a huge school of thought in kind of what you're saying. Mm-hmm. Like he hadn't fought you. I'm going to show him something that he hasn't seen.
Yeah.
And you feel invincible. And then so getting knocked out, I got hit really, really hard against the Saints. It's a very weird feeling.
It is.
Because you kind of know what's going on, but you're like, I feel like this is over. I mean, I'll go some more, but like, man, there's a lot of people around me. Like maybe they're not going to let me continue. It's a really odd feeling, but I can't imagine. I've done a little bit of training, very little when I was in shape. That fight stuff is really scary to me because it can happen so quick.
Right. Yeah. It's not a long process. It was like, man, you either kick someone else's ass or get your ass kicked within like 5 minutes. Like, that's it.
That's like I was talking. People were talking about betting on, you know, the Crawford fight, or like, and they're like, oh, you don't ever bet on Drew, you don't bet on UFC, and I was like, no, puncher's chance.
Man,
anybody can win a fight.
So my boys wrestle, all three of my sons, and they started 2 years ago. So the first year was really hard, and I was like, I told all three of them, keep working hard. But what I said is, I've played a lot of bad football and won football games. In fighting and wrestling, if you don't fight well or if you don't wrestle well, you get your ass kicked. Well, it's not, you can't hide. Well, it's football, you can hide.
Well, it's such a team sport. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, if you miss the tackle, there's a linebacker, there's a safety, there's some, there's a secondary. But it's like when I ran track, you're the only one out there. Like, it's like
What'd
teams.
You run?
Ones and twos. I was a sprinter. Dude, easy.
Are you still able to do this? I want to see you sprint.
Yeah.
For as long as I've known you, I don't think I've ever seen you move your legs briskly.
I could probably sprint if I had to. We were talking about this the other day because
10 yards. 10
one of our buddies said he could run.
For me.
One of our friends said he could run a 400 in like 45 seconds. I was like, it's not fucking happening. That's like world class time.
No.
I ran the 400 in like 8th grade, and I ran a minute 7.
Yeah.
In 8th grade. But I ran ones and twos. My best like 100 was like an 11.4.
That's good.
And I also
fast.
weighed 100 pounds less than I do now.
That's fast.
Yeah. I learned really quick that I can't run, jump, or catch a ball. Like in high school, I was like training for fights, running sprints, and man, the offensive line was faster than me, and I'm like not even close to their size. So I mean, I'm glad we learned that real quick. So I don't do any running. I just
but
play
everybody
my feet.
has some kind of athleticism.
That's what's
different.
crazy is like, you would think like the NFL guy from that joined UFC.
Mm-hmm. Oh, a couple of them,
but the
Greg Hardy.
Like, okay, really big guy. I would think the NFL is some of the best big athletes in the world. Like, no, getting punched in the face.
Mm-hmm. What's that old Mike Tyson quote? Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Man.
Yeah. I just had this conversation the other day with like other athletes, and like it's kind of frustrating to me to like fighting is the one thing that everyone thinks they can do.
Yep,
right? But
for sure.
Why is it so appalling if I were to say like, hey man, like I could out dribble Kobe Bryant or LeBron James, and everyone looks at you like, no, you can't. I'm like, then why do you think you can fight with UFC fighters then? Because like fighting is not a natural thing. Like if you're not shown a punch, you don't know how to throw a punch.
Nope.
Period.
No, and take a punch. It's like in football. You have to learn how to fall, right? You kind of learn how to fall.
Man.
Same thing in powerlifting. In any kind of lifting sport, you learn how to bail on a lift so you don't get hurt.
Yep.
Yeah, some punches, same way. You got to learn how to take a punch.
Dude, yeah. But you go to a bar, man. Like everyone knows how to like throw a ball. They know how to like catch a ball. They know how to tackle. But but man, like you don't on a professional level. You don't.
No, and I say it's like, I mean, you're sure you run into it, and I have. If you're like a decent sized person in a bar, everybody just assumes that you want to fight.
Yes.
Or that if there's gonna be a fight, like you're the first one. It's like if you go to you're gonna go to the guy with the gun first. You know what I mean? Like that's the biggest guy. We gotta fucking take that guy first.
This not all the time. I don't want to sound like a douchebag. Like, man, you're a big guy, Dave. I wouldn't mess with you. Like, no,
I'm not gonna fight you.
I don't want to mess with you.
I don't want to get hit in the face.
I don't want to get beat up.
You know why I carry a gun? Because I don't want to get hit in the face. If there's a fight,
but training is legit, man. Like,
oh yeah,
knowing, we'll get deeper in the weeds about this. But I when Jason Brills was fighting and I was playing, so I think I was just starting to lift here. Drew was a little puppy, little chubby, skinny. I don't even know. I was just telling him.
We were skinny fat for sure.
Yeah. So Jason Brills was going to fight Nogueira. Really good fight. I think he won. But he was down at Premier, and I told Zach Stalder, my brother-in-law, I was like, man, I'll come down there and wrestle with Jason. I'm 280 pounds. I'm in really good shape. They probably don't have a big guy there that can lean on him. It was a nightmare for me. I mean, it was so, like, he was doing a single leg, and I just picked him up and threw him on the ground. The minute we touched the ground, Jason was on top of me. And I don't even know what happened. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm strong. Squatting almost 800 pounds, ran a 4.6, like all the numerics that would say like, oh, Dave could fight. No,
I'm not trying to fight. I'm not trying to get hit in the face at all.
Or anything.
If somebody starts a fight and I'm with them, I'm leaving. I'm not hanging out. I got shit to do later.
And I'm the fighter. I'm right there with you. Like I know how exhausting it is. And we go back to our original point of like in fighting, we don't have teammates to kind of like back us up when we make mistakes. You know, it's all us all the time, right? So we've learned that like we can make mistakes and recover from it. So yeah, you might get that first takedown as soon as you hit the mat. Like I'm gonna end up on top.
Yes,
you might be able to squeeze the hell out of me, but give it 45 seconds, I'm still gonna find your chin. It's like one of those things.
The gas in the tank.
Yeah.
Like I think it was the powerlifting guy that was with Dustin Poirier. Didn't he have like a YouTube? The big American dude. You remember seeing that? And they started on the ground, and I was like, well, it's the big dude, Josh. What's his name?
Oh, Josh Bryant.
Yes, and they were like kind of scrapping, but they started on the ground, and I was like, well, he's just gonna lay on Poirier because he weighs 250 pounds more than him. Like, start on your feet. That dude will be gassed in 20 seconds of chasing him around a cage. You know, like, you have all these tools in your tool belt as a fighter that you can use. But you're right. We're getting in the weeds now. When you said there were some things leading up to that fight that you would have changed. Do you think mentally? Is that?
Oh yeah, I think the big thing is mentally. I think, like, physically, man, I could beat the dude 9 out of 10 times, right?
Yeah, you
but
look
I pretty
great.
much handed it to him because of what I was doing up in my head. You know, I think I was like just believing my own hype. You know, I got the Giga chin. I can't get knocked out. Like, all I got to do is place my hand on you. You're gonna fall down. So we just kind of dismissed everything that like led me up to that point. Right. And so, like, the old term of like dance with the woman that brought you, man, I left her home. I came in with just balls and vinegar, and it just didn't work out for me.
Yeah.
I send him the same message every fight week. Every time. Never underestimate your opponent.
Yep.
And as long as you make them play your game, no one can beat you.
It's hard.
If you look
Late
at
in my
Drew's
career.
If you look at Drew's career, we talked about it the other day. You look at the grapplers he lost to, Drew knocked them down, but saw blood in the water and went for it. If he would have made them stand back up, none of those guys would have stand and bang with him.
Yep.
But if you make someone play your game, it's like you said with the Giants. We're going to do what we do, make them play our game, and we're going to win.
Well, when you get older too, and again, I'm just using my experience playing the NFL late in my career, 31, 32 years old. I went to Oakland, and they started asking me to do things that I wasn't comfortable doing, and I didn't voice my opinion on that. And it really put me in positions to really not succeed because I didn't use what got me there. Right. And these are lessons that you really have to learn later. You know, you have to get established in your career like you are to kind of be like, okay, we can run this back, and I can fix this and make sure that doesn't happen again. Right. I mean, you feel good about what's in front of you for sure. So it's just interesting. We talked off air about things you learn as you go. And this is just something you at some point, every fighter, if they continue to fight, this is what Michael Strahan used to say, everyone will get cut from the NFL at some point. If you stick around long enough, everyone will get cut, and I'd assume it's similar in the fight game.
Yeah, you look at every great in the UFC, man. Everyone's been dropped. Everyone's been TKO'd, man. Like, let's dismiss the anomaly of Khabib, who retired really early, but like everyone, GSP, Anderson Silva, Islam Makhachev, like they've all been knocked out.
The greatest,
dude.
Right?
Yeah. So it's like, to me, it's like the more times you roll the dice, the better chance you're going to get snake eyes, and it's your ability to recover from it is what makes you a champion.
Yep.
Yeah, and you talk about like Islam and Khabib, and we're talking about the difference in sports and the entertainment because we had like the boxing match with Diaz and Jake Paul, and I think that we talked about on our podcast this last week too, that I think some of these champions like Islam, he's super boring. Nobody wants to watch that guy fight. Like, so I just don't see him being champion very long, because same way when you fought him, he just like wrestle fucked you. Now did he like? I mean, we've been friends for years, but he fucking owned you on the ground, and we're friends.
No.
But that's what he does. There. He just lays on top of people, and nobody wants to watch that fight. Khabib did the same thing, except Khabib was a little more active. I mean, he would hit. But no one wants to watch those guys.
I want to add, man, everyone wants to see a personality fight, right? So it's just like the personality is like the reason we want to see a person win or lose or fight. Conor McGregor, I mean, he's got that personality. That's why I want to see it. That's why we wanted to watch Khabib fight, because, I mean, he ran his mouth. He was kind of a personality. But when you watch Islam, man, like...
he's like robotic.
It's literally so boring.
Yeah.
So whether he wins or loses, nobody wants to see it. And so it's like we want to see personalities fight. So that's why we're so into this whole Jake Paul situation.
Well, and Dana's not stupid. It's still the art, the martial arts, and the respect for him, but it's sports entertainment.
Yeah.
I mean, you get Dana White and Vince McMahon together, and you basically it's kind of the direction of the UFC.
Yeah.
They want fireworks. That's why we've talked before. Everybody loves watching you fight because you're always going to put on a show. You are not going to lay on top of somebody. That's what we were talking the other day. You're like the next Donald Cerrone. Everybody loves Cerrone, but Cerrone was going to stand and bang with anybody, and he did not care. And he was a good dude. I don't know anybody who's like, man, fuck that Donald Cerrone.
That's so interesting, the entertainment value that a person brings, right? Because you again, Bud Crawford. I mean, he's as good of a boxer as we've seen, but he's not. He doesn't have the persona of Floyd Mayweather, right? So like, that's all part of this game. Is your entertainment value, what you bring to the table? Hey, I'm going to throw. Something bad might happen for me. Something good might happen. Hey, those checks all cash the same, Drew. I'll tell you what, brother.
But man, the checks get bigger when people are interested. I personally, I think there's like two phases of a fight, right? There's the entry of the fight of like, I'm interested to see this person in the cage, right? And then there's the interest of like, I want to see this person continue in the cage, right? There's Elon Musk and the Facebook guy,
Mark Zuckerberg,
right? Dude,
thing.
but we're all interested because we want to see them enter the cage,
I'm paying
right?
for it, right?
But we're going to lose interest after that first 3 minutes because we're going to realize they don't know what the hell they're doing, right?
Yeah, it's going to be awful.
Yeah, but then when we see like I don't know, let's say Terrence Crawford in the ring, right? Unfortunately, he doesn't have that draw factor of like when he enters, right? But once he's in there, man, our eyes are on it because he's so talented. So as an athlete or as a fighter, you got to be able to play both sides. Like, I want you to be entertained of me getting in the cage and continue that entertainment of once I'm in there. And I mean, that's why you got to have a personality and talent at the same time.
Now, this last one, he came out with Eminem and he had the fishnet around him.
That was unreal.
That was cool.
And I'll bring up a guy I talked about earlier, Jason Brills. Hell of a fighter, but it's like he wasn't a guy that would draw you in, right? Like, no one really probably wanted to fight Jason because they knew what it was going to be, right?
Right.
He's going to roll around with you, take some punches. But, man, it's crazy to think the value you bring as an entertainer when you're talking about fighting.
Right.
Punching each other in the face. Like, well, it's got to be exciting.
I mean, look at Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as you knew that Tyson was fighting, everybody was just scared.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that Mike Tyson's always brought up and no one ever talks about like Evander Holyfield. Evander Holyfield beat Tyson's ass twice.
And Tyson said he was scared of Evander Holyfield.
Yeah. Evander Holyfield was the better boxer, but nobody cared because he wasn't running amok off camera or on camera.
Lennox Lewis, same thing.
Yeah.
Lennox Lewis is arguably probably one of the best heavyweights of that generation. I mean, he kind of like Tyson Fury. I mean, just long armed, keep people away from you, new boxing. But he wasn't a knockout guy. That, even the kid that Tyson Fury's fighting, what's his name? That he's beat twice now. He's fought him 3 times.
Oh, yeah. Man, why did I forget his name, too?
But
the guy was just laying people out.
But I mean, he's going to get more fights, though, because
Devontae Wilder.
Yeah, because he swings for the fences, dude, man. Hey, what I always tell the kids that play baseball in the neighborhood, chicks love the long ball, man. Swing for the fence, brother. As I tell the neighborhood kids. Their dads are like, no. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, you
home runs.
Miss the shots you don't take. What else is going on in life, though? You had your kid. Is she
2 months old
2
now?
months old now?
2 months old now. So she's starting to like recognize daddy's voice, starting to like pay attention a little bit more. Oh man, like it's just the feeling is so different. Like how many kids do you have?
I got 3.
3 kids. Man,
most unbelievable thing I've ever seen in my life is my wife giving birth.
Dude,
it's
holy cow.
Yeah, but seriously, you're like, there's 2 of us, there's 2 of us, there's 2 of us. Now there's 3 of us.
Yeah,
like a human shows up,
dude, out
of her vagina. Like, and you're like, what?
I mean, and just the fact that they practically deadlift for hours.
Oh, dude.
Hours. Like,
if men had to have babies, there'd be none. We are total pussies, dude.
And we got a Super Bowl champ and a fighter, and we both are just like, yeah, we don't have kids.
It's unbelievable.
It's probably the most intense thing I've ever witnessed in my life.
It is, man. It's a miracle. I don't like. Yeah. I would not have a baby. if I was a female, I'd be like, I'm okay. We can adopt or something,
Yeah, I've been hitting the balls before. That's it.
Oh, dude. Imagine repeated kicks for hours, right? I mean, it's wild, man. Childbirth changes your life, as you know now.
Yeah.
Like, you have this human
Yeah.
that is going to depend on you for the rest of your life. And, you know, we talk 18, whatever, but
Yeah, you hope they're not a dirtbag.
Yeah.
You want to.
yeah, I got
But, like,
3. I figure one of them will
Yeah,
be.
one of them's gonna shit the bed.
Even if they are, like, you're like I'm just like predestined to love this dirtbag forever, you know? Like, it's like, well,
You have no choice.
Everyone else hates it, but I love it.
Yeah, you
you
can be
know?
a piece of shit. Dad's here.
Yeah,
it's like-
you got it's what do they say, the love, it's when you don't, unconditional.
Yep.
It really is, man. It's a wild thing. You're going to be fine. This is what I tell my buddies. I have kids.
Yeah.
Humans have been having children for thousands of years. You're doing a great job, Drew. You'll be fine. Feed it. Let it sleep. Change the diaper. And guess what? It's going to grow up, and
Yeah, I mean-
she's going to be fine. And
I was telling everyone, like, the beautiful thing about fighting is it's taught me that, like, you can't predict anything. You only
Yeah.
react, right? Like the moment, just react, and that's like the same with fighting. It's like, or parenting.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, you just react. There's no prediction. Like, she might be into like music, she might be into
Yeah.
softball. Like you just got to react to every situation. But yeah, man, it's so intense, and every dad talks about like the feeling of becoming a father and like your child and stuff like that, and you don't quite understand it until it happens, and only after the fact that like now I can be like, yep, you feel that thing that no one else understands. It was like the amount of love and anxiety at the same time, and the amount of like intensity. It's outrageous.
especially as a dad. And I'll ask you this. Obviously, we got to partake in the fun part of making the child, and then you're kind of hands off, right? The mother's pregnant, and the baby's born. The baby breastfeeds, so you really don't have a ton of involvement early on. Maybe some diaper changing. I was playing when all my kids were born, and so Megan did everything because I had to sleep. You know, our schedule, and I want to get into that with you later as far as how your schedule's built with fighting, but like, Megan was letting me rest. You know, I'd lift, run 4 hours a day, et cetera, et cetera. But it's as a man, it's a little kind of a weird feeling because you're really not involved very much early on.
You're
you know?
practically a fly on the wall. And man, I never felt as useless as I was like in the hospital during labor. I'm like,
What do I do with my hands?
Yeah. It was just like, yeah, I felt so useless. And so like I vowed then, I was like, man, whatever I can put my hands on, like we're doing that. So the moment that I got to change a diaper, I'm like, yeah, let me do this because that's the only thing I can do at this
front
point.
to back.
Front to back. Yeah. Always.
Front to back with the girls. Front to back.
Let me give you some advice. When your wife is giving birth, I flew in here to Omaha after a preseason game. We played against Detroit, and she's like actively pushing, and I'm like leaning forward. I'm stretching my hip flexor, and she's like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "My hip flexor is killing me." She looked at me like if she had a gun, she would have shot me in my head.
Yeah.
Like my oldest wouldn't have a dad because I'd be dead. And so don't complain about being sore from whatever you're doing when you have kids. Terrible idea.
However, man, what I learned in Omaha Barbell, as far as like spotting and lifting and all that stuff, did play dividends in the labor room. Like we didn't have to go to any Lamaze classes because after spotting some dude deadlifting, like I knew what I was supposed to do. Like just encouragement, that break time, and then keep pushing. You know, like
Stay north.
You're pretty. Yeah, stay north for sure.
Did you go south?
Dude, I saw it all, man.
Oh,
and
he
the
stayed north.
C-section too. The second was a C-section, and my wife's all doped up, and I leaned over the curtain. Both, you know, I look and I'm like, oh my gosh, and I lean back over. I'm like, you should see this, Megan. She's like, what? I'm like, this is crazy. So don't say that either when your wife's having a C-section. I had to learn a couple of these lessons.
Oh man, my wife looked me dead in the eyes and she goes, "You do not look down. Do not look down." I was
Yeah,
like,
I saw
"All right,
the
I got
whole
it.
thing,
I got
man.
it."
It was crazy. And then the red hair came out. And I was like,
I wasn't around you then, so
well, you know, Eli would always say, you know, my dad has red hair. Well, yeah, so Archie Manning slept with my wife. He's like 70.
hey, kid could be a legend though. I mean, that dude's put out football
Hey.
players.
I was like, Eli, if so, I mean, I'm going to keep him. You know, like I'm not going to turn him away if he's a part Manning. Come on now.
That's an investment.
They've all won Super Bowls.
So, yeah. Me and Eli, he didn't win one without me. so to say.
Peyton, his dad.
So our football stuff, Drew, was very regimented schedule-wise. So, like, you take this time off after the season, then you get into weights, conditioning, lifting, all types of stuff. With fighting, it seems a little more disjointed. When you're done fighting, do you have a certain amount of time that you are like, all right, I'm going to rest for 2 weeks? Or do you wait to hear when your next fight's going to be? Like, walk us kind of through what a schedule looks like for you.
Yeah, like I'm very jealous of like other sports with seasons because like you can game plan kind of like things.
Oh yeah.
Where MMA is like the Wild West. It's like it could be today, it could be tomorrow, it could be like a year from now. Like you never know. So like, I mean, Dana White loves saying like you just got to be ready at all times. But like that's impossible. Like you can't maintain peak performance indefinitely. Like you can't. So you have to like time
our football stuff was all designed on getting ready for the season, and that took months.
Right.
Months. I couldn't imagine like, oh yeah, you want to fight in 2 weeks? Like, yeah, but I'm not ready.
Exactly, right?
So what are you waiting on now? Like what is after this post? Walk me through after this last fight. What does that all look like?
All right, so generally I give myself 1 week, 7 days of absolutely nothing. I mean, that's just quality couch time, right? Let the blood settle, the bruises leave, figure out like where you are bodily wise, like if you need more time or less time or whatever, but at least 7 days.
Any injuries that show up late because they can, right?
Exactly.
Maybe something.
Exactly.
So you wait a week.
And then you get back to the gym, right? And not so much like heavy training, but like just going through the motions, like just showing up to the gym, like it just kind of gets that motion going. And my metaphor is like rolling a boulder or like a bowling ball. It's like you just got to get it moving because once you get that momentum going, it's easier to go faster. And so you just incrementally get that motion going, like going to the gym, going through the motions. But like because we don't have a fight scheduled or I'm still like bruised up, like we can call it on the sprints. I don't need to run sprints, like we're good. But like you incrementally stay in the gym,
Okay.
And then once you get a good time frame of like I would be ready to go in September. Or whatever, I can do this. So then you just let the UFC know, like, I will be ready in September. And the UFC is so gung-ho about getting me back in the cage that if I tell them September, they will tell me, like, all right, we found someone for September 1st.
Good.
And
could, even with someone like you that's such a veteran in the game, say late August, a week from September, guy gets banged up, would that be something that you'd be comfortable with on a week's notice, even if it was kind of that close? It just depends.
So it's so hard because, like, I could fight at any time of the week. Like, I can throw hands this weekend if I could, but making weight is probably the most drastic, painful, and the most annoying part of this career.
Yeah.
And so the question is, can you fight in a week? Absolutely. Can I make weight in a week? Absolutely not.
So then if you, okay, let's just play that game. September, you tell them you're going to be ready. At what weight would you declare now what weight you want to fight at? Will you tell them?
Well, so like I'm contracted for 155.
Okay.
The UFC hates it when you like bounce between weight classes. So 155 is it. So like I know the date or the weight all year round. Like this, I need to weigh this amount, and like I know what it takes to get my body there.
Yeah.
Like I need at least 6 weeks.
So you're 180 right now. We talked, right? 180-ish. So towards the end of this month, will you start kind of getting down to 170-ish just in case something comes up?
I mean, so as of now, I'm scheduled to fight October 7th.
Oh,
so
well, there we go.
Yeah. So
so October 7th.
So, but yeah,
if Drew's fighting, man, I pay for it, dude.
That's the only time I pay
some
for
other
it.
guys, I'll get the old Chinese website going,
the streaming.
But Drew, I know it's going to a good place. I'll kick some cash to the UFC to see old Dober fight.
That's the only pay-per-views I get now.
Yeah. So, okay.
But the way the process goes is, I was just out at International Fight Week in Las Vegas, and I ran into my matchmaker, my boss, and he was like, "Hey, like when are we going to be ready?" And I was like, "I want to fight at the end of September. I want to fight the end of September, right? Because I did the math, and it's like at this point, I weigh this much. I need this amount of time. I count down the calendar. Like, all right, so if I need 6 weeks, I could fight at the earliest mid-September.
Okay.
So I just tell them that. And so he came back with the offer of September 23rd, which I said, absolutely, we'll take that fight.
Yeah.
And my opponent needed 2 extra weeks.
Okay.
So now we're fighting October 7th. And
You know who we're fighting? Are we allowed to say it? Or?
yeah. So it was announced like literally a couple days ago.
Okay.
So I'm fighting Ricky Glenn, which is a tough cat from Iowa.
Ooh,
So,
little
yeah.
Nebraska, Iowa action, huh?
I mean, at the Midwest, you know that
Where's
he's a
it
jack
at?
of all trades. As of now, it's going to be in Las Vegas Apex.
Okay.
But I think they're trying to get away from the Apex Center, like that private arena. So like they're looking for big event centers.
Man,
So-
they've done well out here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like,
I went to Lincoln. I went to Wichita. I went to Minneapolis.
and they even had some down here at CHI, right?
That was what Ellenberger. That was probably the last time they were at CHI.
and
I
it
think.
was, that was exciting. I
Well,
mean,
in my opinion, I think let's hold off. Let me get through this Ricky Glenn guy real quick,
Yeah.
and then once we get some prestigious opponents, like if I'm fighting like a Michael Chandler or something like that, then yeah, let's come out to Omaha.
But don't forget, he might not be prestigious, but he can hit.
Oh yeah, no. Ricky Glenn's got some talents.
So funny, the connection between the three of us. Well, obviously we've all trained here. When I was at your fight in Minneapolis, it was after your fight. We were going up by I think we were going to the restrooms actually, and the camera like hit us. I'm going up the stairs. I get a text from Dave. I just saw you on ESPN, dude. And me and Amber were on ESPN right after your fight.
that's right.
Because you sent me, I think you sent me a picture. I think I have the picture you sent me of us on ESPN.
So the viewers probably don't know, when Rick Hussey's Big Iron closed, I came over here.
Yeah.
We probably talked about that a little bit on the podcast I did with you. And there's this kind of skinny fat kid that'd show up. So you were probably, what is this, 2011?
We opened
Maybe
in
early
what?
2012?
Early 2012,
Yeah.
probably.
So you're 22. 20,
yeah, 22, early 20s.
And Brett's like, yeah, he fights. I'm like, interesting. You know, I mean, I was like, that's cool. My buddy Kenny Anatolu was in here, and he'd be in here every day. So I think you had told us to come, and I don't think Kenny made it, but I came. He was fighting for victory.
Yep.
He win a couple matches. I'm like, pretty good. Like, this kid, he throws down. Then I think you had said, like, Drew's going to the UFC. I'm like, no shit.
Yeah, dude, I was thinking it's funny. Like, I'm sure you remember where you were when you got called. And I remember where I was sitting when Drew called me and told me he was going to the UFC. I was like at a family Christmas, and Amber and I were just sitting there. And he called me. He's like,
you text me even like, hey, remember Drew? I'm like, yeah, I remember the kid that like, you were even then. It was like you were into it wasn't Taekwondo, but you were doing. It wasn't just
He
jujitsu.
was doing Muay Thai.
Yes, yes.
Yep.
Okay, it's all coming back now. I've been hitting the head more than you. So
Sorry. Well, speaking of being skinny fat at 22, man, when I got that call, I was sitting in an Omaha diner eating a deep fried country fried steak. Like, I was killing it. And yeah, I got the call of like, hey, can you fight in 2 weeks?
But you took that at 170 though, right?
I did. Luckily, I could only take it at 170. Like, we're not going
Yeah.
any lower than that. And we had to cut weight to get to 170. But yeah, I was right off the couch. Like, that was the most tired I've ever been in a fight. My first UFC fight.
it's crazy to think where
And that
you're
was-
at now.
And that was what, 10 years ago now?
Yeah, about going on 11 years.
So I was saying it was in November, right? When you,
Yeah, I've been with the company for about 11 years now.
I retired in 13. So it would have been around that time when I seen you fight at Victory. And then it wasn't long after that. How many fights did you have there?
Victory, man, like, I mean, we're hitting double digits somewhere.
Yeah,
Like,
and
it'd be
then-
safe to say around 20
And you
fights in
kept at
Victory.
it, man. I think so. As an old wily vet at the time in the NFL, you see a young kid, whether it's fighting or whatever they're trying to get into, and you meet them right away, and you're like, okay, cool, you know, because you know everyone wants to be something, and every day we come in here and Drew be in here lifting weights, and you're like, man, this kid shows up every day. You know,
when
and
he
you see
wasn't
it-
lifting, he was shadow boxing.
well, and you see, you in every sport, everyone wants to make it.
Yep.
Everyone says it. Everyone, which I love. You should dream. I don't disregard, but like, the work's the work, man. And that's it. And I just, oh man, this kid just keeps showing up. You know, I was like, kind of keep tabs on him. Then he fights in the UFC, and now I see him on TV. I'm like, golly, I would not have my shirt off around him. Like, be embarrassed. I was like, gosh, he looks so good. I'll say this. I didn't say it off air, but I'll say it on air. So I'm very, very proud of you.
Thank you.
I know how hard you've worked and how much it means to you to be successful at whatever it is. And you're going to be an incredible dad. And it's just really neat for a local guy that I kind of know. I tell people I know you. Sounds good. But
yeah,
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
You deserve it.
I appreciate it. Man.
And I'll continue to watch. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the story that I'm trying to paint is like, man, the work is the work, right? And like everyone has dreams. Everyone like wants to be somewhere that they're not, right? But everyone disregards like what it takes to get there. And at the end of the day, man, you got to fall in love with the work.
Yep.
Right?
That's what I tell my boys.
Drew lost a lot of jobs.
Yeah. I was a carpenter. We talked about it. Like, my buddy Tosh Lupway is the defensive coordinator at Oregon now. When I told him in 2002, I was like, man, I think I can play in the NFL. He screamed at me. He's like, it's not a sign-up sheet. And I was like, no, I think I can do it if I get to work. Right. And I went to work, man. And just claw. There will never, nothing bad ever comes from hard work. And you're a great example of it. I am. Brett is as well with his business and how it's grown. That you can't supplement it. Mm-hmm. Just like you said, you can't. You got to show up and work, man. And I hope.
And the key is that I want to put out there is like you just said show up. And I think showing up is like the biggest thing. Like, I mean, Brett knows he's been training me since I was 19 years old. Like I didn't show up 100% like all the time. Like I was a little asshole sometimes. Like I didn't work the hardest on some days, right? But showing up is the only thing a successful person needs to do, right? And so like as a kid, if you have a dream, sweet, show up every single day. And your extracurricular activities need to reflect just having the ability of showing up. If you're out there drinking, if you're out there hanging out with like a girl or a guy, whatever you're into, right? Yeah. But it distracts you from like just showing up to where you need to be, right? And I got at the end of the day, you just show up and the work is just secondary.
So as a dad, this summer, Tucker started freshman football. And the head coach for the varsity at Elkhorn, Dan Fikert, really nice guy. Like, hey, if you guys have family vacations, you don't have to be here every day. And I told my wife, like, Tucker's going to be there every day. Mm-hmm. Well, he said it's fine. I'm like, no. I'm like, it's not about, again, he's part of a team. It is about the team. But Tucker needs to understand. You got to show up.
Yeah.
You have to. I think you hit the nail on the head, man. Availability is the best ability.
Right, exactly.
It is. And if you continue to work and train and stay ready, imagine if you didn't. And you had a ton of success and victory. Mm-hmm. But you continue like, no, this isn't where I want to be. And then you get the phone call, I'll do it.
Yeah. Well,
I'm
ready.
Think
to make it to the level, whether it's the NFL or the UFC or whatever you're looking to do in business, is what are you willing to sacrifice? Like I made a joke like that Drew got fired from a lot of jobs, but that wasn't his thing. His focus was to fight. And like, granted, one of the jobs I think I got him fired because he stole me a Danish when he worked at the bakery.
I was bringing you some free baked
I couldn't
goods.
imagine that you'd love a Danish, Brett.
It was good though. But no, but
and surround yourself with people
it's that old
care
saying.
about the same things. I hated running. I hated it. Playing D-line. Kenny liked running. Kenny didn't like lifting. Mm-hmm. So we were like perfect workout partners because we drag each other to both.
Right.
When it's that old saying, what are you, the sum of the 5 people around you?
Yeah.
So whoever you surround yourself with and, whether it's different coaches or it's your friends, like, and I get it. We all grow up, and we all have that one like loser friend, but he's still like a good dude. So you're still friends with him. Mm-hmm. But he also is that same friend. And I'm saying loser is a harsh word, but like, but they're also that friend, like they might not be successful, but they're not trying to bring you down.
Yep.
You don't want the people around you that are like, yeah, man, no, fuck, I remember we used to hang out. Fuck, you don't hang out with me no more. We don't do this. I'm like, yeah, man, I got shit to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like, it's the, what are you willing to sacrifice? And people really talk about, I'm willing to do this. Like you said, you're not gonna let your kid miss practice. Like, are you showing up for 2-a-days all the time when you were starting and cutting massive amounts of weight, your training camps, or when we opened this place, Amber and I would work 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. every night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
you guys would be here all day.
Yeah. And it's, what are you willing to do? And in business, I see people, they'll start a business and like, oh, I got this loan so I can hire all these people. And I was like, for what? It's some shit you can do on your own. What are you paying people for? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, I'm not going to go run today. I don't want to. Okay, well, the other dude's running. Or I'm not going to go spar. The other dude's sparring. Mm-hmm. You know, it's that whole thing. Whatever you're not doing, your opponent is doing.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to continue this with like two like proverbs that like I absolutely love, which is like, if you want to be the 1%, you got to live like the 1%, right? Yep. Which the way I translate that is, if you want to stand out, you can't fit in, right? Like you can't do what everyone else is doing because you're trying to do something better, different, right? And that goes for like NFL, business owning, UFC. It's like, if you want to fit in, then that's exactly where you're going to be. But if you want to stand out, if you want to be that 1%, like you got to do unique things, which might be staying home, or it might be like sacrificing, or it might be this or that. But like, yeah, like the whole fitting in thing is only going to hold you back.
I love that.
You got to be different.
I'm going to have my son will be 15 tomorrow. And I just had this conversation with him. And I'm going to have him listen to this podcast to hear from you. Because sometimes hearing from dad, it doesn't hit the spot. But we were riding around today, picking up from football. And we had to get his computer fixed or something like that. And he had gotten into a situation with some friends where he was doing on something on his phone that he shouldn't do. And I'm not going to bust him out for it. But I said, Tucker, you don't have to do what everyone does. And I get it. He's super embarrassed. He's like, Dad. I was like, no, listen, I've fallen in that trap and not put myself in a position to excel because of that. You're going to have to say bye to some people, and they're going to have to understand that that's not what you want to be a part of. You know, if we all went out and Drew was like, I'm not drinking tonight, and me and you're going to have a bunch of beers, as being adults now, we'd understand. He's at a different part, and he'd understand that we're going to have a good time because we're in a different stage of our life. But I love hearing that from you, because I just had that conversation with my 15-year-old. Like, hey, man, what do you want? Well, I want to go to college to play football. Well, I'll tell you what it takes, and I'm going to let you do it, and I'm going to let you mess it up too, but you got to understand this is what it looks like, right?
Yeah, I remember the old, so if all your friends jumped off a bridge, you'd jump too. And I was like, well, yeah, if everybody's doing it, then what the fuck? There's nobody to hang out with. But
yeah,
but if you're the lone survivor, you're going to be the successful one.
Yeah. It's tale as old as time. Show me your friends, I'll show you your future.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's fun being a dad now, and I'm lazy because of this. This is the problem, and you're going to learn someday when you retire. But you're like, man, if I can't do something 100%, well, then fuck it, I'm not going to do it.
So well, you're lazy. Work out
no, I'm
anymore.
not. Yeah, I haven't worked out since I retired. You know how hard it is to work out for free?
Yeah.
When you get paid to work out, I'm wrong. Yes, I should work out, Drew. I know what you're hit me with.
But you earned laziness, though.
Yes,
like we
talked about that, right?
Like you put in the work.
You and I talked about this off the air. Is like, you know, you put those 20 years in, from 20 to 40 or 30, or it could be 40 years. Say it's 20 to 60, and you're a billionaire at that point, right? Man, you've earned to be gone for 10 days on your yacht.
Yeah. And
not answer your phone. Whatever that looks like for you. But yeah, man, I do need to work out though.
You do. You used to look better.
I mean, just in case I get in a fight. All jokes aside.
But speaking of business, you know, we always talk about your backup plan. What's your? I know he's got something going. I know you like the real estate game. Is that going to be kind of your?
Yeah. So like real estate is like what I understand, you know, just buying investment properties and, you know, renting them out and doing that thing. You know, it's a fun job of staying behind the curtains, right? Being a landlord. Like,
this is Kenny working out here.
Hey, actually,
he's calling me right now. Look how jacked Kenny is. That's here at the gym, dude.
Yeah.
And he's in real estate. I got to get hooked up with Kenny. Yeah. He's big on it. But golly, he gets so mad. That's his picture with his shirt off.
That's why he tore his bicep.
Can we show it?
Does he still look like that though?
Oh, dude, he looks like $1 million. Genetics.
Dude, blacks have the best genetics.
Genetics
for being
are
jacked,
king.
dude.
Genetics are king.
Oh, it's great. Good for them, though. Good
and
for
I'm
them.
tall. Thank you, genetics. But like, there's other issues that are. I have shortcomings. But go ahead.
I'm neither tall or black, so we had to work at this.
Hold on, we don't know though. We don't know your whole gene pool.
Yeah.
Until there's a 23andMe. I don't really know what we're gonna fucking guess on that whole deal.
Yeah. So you're getting into real estate.
Real estate's a big thing. Like,
Good.
I just enjoyed with that. And plus, you got to let your money work for you. Like,
Yep.
I'm making, some good money with fighting, but fighting's over just around the corner. So, like, we got to be able to put that towards something that's moving. And then outside of that, man, broadcasting is a big thing. Like, I love being in front of a camera, talking on a microphone, ideally without getting punched in the mouth. So broadcasting is a beautiful thing. And then last but not least, I would love to own a gym, coach, like literally express the things that I've learned through trial and error to like the younger generation. So hopefully, one or two kids will catch it. So man,
You'd be incredible at that, Drew. That's one thing I got into at Iowa Western when I retired was coaching. And a lot of people don't understand this, but you have a doctorate in fighting. Mm-hmm. Like, you're a doctor. My mom got a lot of crap about me playing football and going to Northwest. Like, your son's been in college for 7 years, and she's like, yeah, but if your kid was a doctor, you'd be okay with him going to school for 7 years. And when I retired from the NFL, I'm like, man, I have this expansive knowledge on a subject, like, and to be a part of I got a couple guys in the NFL now, and I'm sure when you coach, you'll have some champions and whatnot. But you would be really, really good at that.
I appreciate it. Yeah, helping another person chase their dreams is fantastic, and we're hoping to do that with my daughter. But another thing too, selfishly, is also just reliving that glory.
Yeah, man.
Just because I don't get to, I want to be a part of it still.
It is vicariously live through that.
Hey, I'm telling you, man, when you're done fighting, it's gonna be the same thing. Jesse Armstead, he's in the Ring of Honor for the New York Giants. I'd run down a kickoff. I broke Ellis Hobbs' neck, knocked out Wallace Gilberry. I mean, and Jesse would always say, give them what they want. And you'll never have that again when you're done knocking someone out. If you knock someone out at a bar, you're going to prison, Drew. That's why I tell the football guys, what we get to do on this field, you'd go to prison for outside of it. And so you'll never get that again. So yeah, I mean, that's a legit thing. Living vicariously through a pupil, it gives you a really good feeling. Listen, Brett, you watching Drew, you watching me when I played, having been lifters here, it really is a unique feeling that you get since you can no longer run the 100-meter dash, right?
I mean, I kind of get the jump on it already though, because I get to coach lifters.
Yeah, and it's a good feeling.
And watching them do well. It always sucks when they don't do well, because I always take it like I did something wrong.
Yeah.
But not every day is awesome. I tell everybody that all the time. Not every day in training is going to be awesome. Not every meet's going to be awesome. You're not going to win every fight. You're not going to win every down. You know what I mean? And it's just all part of the game. But as a coach, and like when you coached, trainer, whatever you want to call it, I mean, you feel bad when they don't win.
Yeah.
And you feel bad like you did something wrong. But just not every day. It's in the cards, man. It's just not all part of it.
And you being older in that situation, and even me sitting here talking to Drew after, which he's been through a ton. So, but like, hey, we learn, we move on. This is a lesson in his last fight that he probably wouldn't have learned when he was young. And now it's like, okay, I told my experience of learning, not really, I didn't take to heart what I was missing, and I lost out probably a couple years of playing longer, and he's going to take the opportunity to be like, okay, this is what I got to do better. I'm going to completely destroy this Ricky kid because I know better, right? I mean,
Well, and I think we talked about before, like I remember your first loss and victory. But I think if you never lose, you never learn.
Yep.
There's a fighter that we know that fought locally that got his manager hooked him up with a lot of easy fights.
Yep.
And then he made it to the UFC and he won a couple of fights. And then when he finally got beat, I don't think he was ever the same. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
He was never the same after that. I think if you just get
is the seed of success.
If you just get handed cans to fight all the time and then you get somebody that like beats you up and he got knocked out, then all of a sudden you question, what am I doing wrong? And then it becomes a head game.
Right. And I'm really big on this, and just being able to accept excited and actually perform after failure. Dude, failure is probably one of the biggest things in like anything that you do, right? And so the way I was able to boil it down is like the reason we go to the gym is to fail.
Yep.
Because if I didn't want to fail, man, I'd just be hitting those 10-pound dumbbells in any workout that I do, because I know I'm not going to fail that. But like if you need somebody else to help you get that barbell off you, or man, some guy is going to be like, hitting that 40 yard a little bit faster.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to the gym and I'm getting my ass kicked, right?
It's the competition of it.
Yeah, it's like that is what drives you to be better than where you are currently. And with these people that are like, they want to avoid failure, they're afraid of failure, they don't like failure, like then it's like, well, then be satisfied where you're at currently, because you're not going anywhere, because failure is the only driving force to get you to where you want to go.
But I need people like that though, because otherwise who's going to hand like food out the window to me at restaurants and stuff like that?
It's so good to hear it from
I'm just
you.
kidding, those people aren't
But
failures.
you're right though, but it's so good to hear that, Drew, and like there's a lot of people that think you can't be the best boxer ever if you haven't lost, because they don't know what you're made of. And that's a unique ability. Now I'm trying to teach it to my boys with wrestling, because life, if you fail in life, whatever that might look like, not paying your bills, they take your house. You going through your last fight ultimately doesn't change your ability as a man to provide, to do certain things, but it's okay, now I absorb this learning lesson, and you've been through it a couple times now, so you can kind of parlay it into, all right, I missed this and this, I can really see what happened. Like losing the ability to absorb it is really an important thing, because and I'm not trying to pick on, especially a guy like John Jones, who arguably has never lost, right?
Right.
What he has that.
He has that like that no contest
knee
or
to
whatever.
the head.
Right? He was beating the dude's ass but still lost somehow.
But look how many problems outside of fighting that he's had. Because at the end of the day, that's who we are as men. We're husbands, we're fathers. You fighting, me playing football, you being a gym owner, Brett, are just pieces of that puzzle. And so, like, it's really kind of interesting to hear you talk about it, because I've told my sons that's an ability. Like, I've gotten my fucking ass kicked in football. And they're like, Logan Mankins, I told the Super Bowl, like, mushed me in the Super Bowl. I got all that black stuff in my eyes, and I started laughing. And he's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's like, what are you laughing at? I'm like, dude, like, why are you blocking me? I suck. Like, but I taking that all in stride was just a growth factor and helped me be a person, man. And I love hearing it from you, Drew, because it just resonates with kind of the principles that I own myself,
Right. I mean, so my failure is like broadcasted, right? So like win or lose, it happens in that cage. But really, it's like the significant ones is the fact that I get my ass kicked Monday through Friday, every single day. And so for me, for like the next generation or anybody listening, it's not so much like to fail or not to fail, but it's just like that fear of failure.
Yes.
And so just going back into reference to like losing your house, like, hey, you might lose your house, you might not, whatever. But it's not about, but it's after you lose that house or after whatever failure you run into, just being able, like, if you're afraid of losing it again, then you've already taken a step backwards. Like, just get another house, and if you lose that one, just get another one. It's like failure should not change your direction at all. Right? So it's like you go forward, you chase your dreams, and failure is only just a speed bump. You fucking roll over it and you keep moving forward.
Got to unhitch that wagon, right? Yeah. You got to. You wouldn't be where you're at with everything you've been through if you're like, all right, man, I got to get better now.
Yeah. And your failure, my failure, they're all different, right? But I think really when failure really affects people is when they allow it to like adjust their personality or their character, right? So now we're just ignore failure. Push forward, and if you fail, then just keep moving forward, right? And it's like, don't let it affect your demeanor at all.
Yeah.
That's what I've always said. When people talk about squatting, I was squatted out of fear. I was like, there's no way I'm getting stuck under this thing. There's no fucking way it's happening. And you see that sometimes I see people in lifting. Once they fail, then it's a head game for them. That number will be in their head forever. You know, maybe they try to squat at something and they miss it or they get hurt. That number will eat at them for the rest of their time until they get past it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's like losing a big fight. If you can never run it back, you're going to get, you know what I mean? It's going to eat at you.
Right. And I lost my last fight, but I think my biggest growth from that is like, yeah, who cares? Right? Like we fell. I mean, I fall upstairs sometimes. No matter how many times I walk upstairs, we fall sometimes, right? It's just like, yeah, who cares? Like he took it on that day, but I'm not going to let it affect me moving forward. We're going to keep doing the same old.
Especially at your level, Drew, where things can happen so quick, for you to address it and really have a global view on like, all right, I there's 2 or 3 things I could have done better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you address it, you fix those things, and now it's like, hey, I got to fight in October.
Yeah,
I'm gonna try to fix those things,
right.
And maybe something else comes up. Who knows that you have to address? I don't think so. But
well, and I don't think the UFC signs any fighter with the idea that they're never going to lose.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You're
getting punched in the face sucks, dude.
I mean, like Floyd Mayweather, like a Terrence Crawford, like those guys are anomalies. You know, someone that never got beat. You know, even Anderson Silva eventually got beat.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, they all fall. Like you said, they're all going to get cut. You know what I mean? It's like you got to decide.
Am I allowed to make another drink, though?
You're more than welcome to make
I'll
another
let
drink
you guys give me about 2 minutes.
That's more, yeah, you're
all right.
welcome.
Yep.
But
you know, so for me, it's like, you know, we're on this podcast, you know, with you know, Super Bowl champ and like UFC fighter and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like one of my biggest fears, I just had a daughter. So providing for my family is one of the like huge fears. There's like, yeah, I lost to Matt Pravola, but who really cares? At the end of the day, I'm the only one that cares about that. But the fear of like providing for my family, you know, it's like, that's the one, you know, or starting a business. Like you have a goal, you want to start a business, and like it's very fearful, you know, but there's that avoidance of fear. You would have never ever opened up a business. I would have, or I could possibly never provide for my family because it's like a stall point. But if you just ignore the fear and just keep moving forward and just like, yeah, I'm going to mess up as a dad. I'm going to mess up as a husband. I'm going to mess up as a business owner or as a coach or whatever, like anything you decide to do. And you just got to just ignore it, right? You got to be that psycho that can ignore the failure. You like Conor McGregor, Mike Tyson, you know, all these cats that are just absolute psychos, but they're so successful because they have the mental instability to ignore failure, ignore fear, ignore all that stuff, and just keep pushing forward.
Yeah.
I mean, like when we started the gym, I mean, no one could have showed up.
Who'd have thought?
There was no guarantee that anybody was going to show up to sign up for this gym.
You opened the gym, and two of the first dudes walking through the door, big time UFC fighter and a couple times Super Bowl champ, and this little. But there was something about you, right, Brett? You were doing something that attracted people like Drew and I.
Yeah.
And the personality, and I'm always here. I'm always open.
Yeah. You
weren't doing shit. When you first opened this gym for 7 days a week, you were sitting here.
Yeah, Amber and I were here all the time.
Yeah. And hey, you can take it. I can't. No, I'm starting this. I don't get days off, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, that's, I mean, with anything, just like, you know, you got your rentals, like nobody might want to rent it. Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy. You get into it. It's like, you never know what's going to happen. And you know, I look at like you drive around to like other businesses. You're like, how did Walmart get from being Sam Walton's fucking hardware store or whatever it was to being Walmart? Like, how do you know what I mean? Like, how do you make those huge jumps?
You work 7 days a week. And again, I'm sure Drew is on this with fighting. Like, Tuesday was our day off in the NFL. Never took a Tuesday off during the season.
Yeah.
And my wife understood. This is if I want to be what I want to be, I don't get days off. If I want to participate in this kid's game for a king's ransom, I don't get Tuesdays off. You know, I'll go in the morning early, 7 o'clock. I'll lift, watch some film, and we can do something in the afternoon on Tuesdays. But that's just how it goes.
With your deal, and like even as long as the ends justify the means.
Yep.
It's worth it.
Man, Megan loved the money tree. As I said, we had a tree in the backyard, and that money just went in the account as it grew.
But you know,
Gosh, I'm glad.
And I think that's where some people
have.
And some people have to differentiate from that. You know, you have to learn. You have to figure out are the or do the ends really justify the means?
Yes.
You know what I
My
mean?
kids were young. You're in the similar spot. You didn't have children when you started this gym, so like Drew had said it when I walked in, and we hadn't seen each other for probably almost 12 years, 10 years.
Yep.
And you would talk about sacrificing your 20s. Hey, part of the deal, man.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm trying to get somewhere.
I missed a lot of things,
Yeah.
but
But now you don't get to miss them. Now you get a barbecue
yeah,
whenever you want.
Right.
yeah. Just making briskets.
But it's hard. When you're young, it's tough to see that. I'm sure you had days, Drew, where you're just like, man, whew.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, so like just the other night, I was showing my wife kind of like the night scene in Omaha, and we went to like Sullivan's or whatever. And man, it was just crowded with like 22-year-olds, just so many young people. And so we got in the conversation like,
Dude, how are 22-year-old? That fucking place is expensive. Who the fuck
Everything is. I went to Taco Bell last night with my kids. It was like $55 for bean burritos.
right.
Oh, yeah.
Which adds to my point of the fact that like my wife was like, would this be a place that you'd be hanging out with at like 22? And I was like, no, I wouldn't even be here.
Yep.
The reason that I get to be here and I can order whatever, I can practically buy this bar.
That's
like I can
right.
do whatever I want right now was because I wasn't ever here when I was 22.
I went there back in the day on a gift card, bro.
Yeah, no.
I had a gift card, and I still had to pay.
Man, it's such a good feeling though, isn't it?
Right.
When you, man, I had nothing, you had nothing, Brad had nothing. We were all young, just trying to figure it out. And then you get a little something and you're like, order whatever you want. Like, oh, that kind of feels kind of
exactly.
neat.
Yeah, I went to, you go to Applebee's, fucking bring it on, whatever you guys want.
Right,
We're
right.
good in the neighborhood.
Which brings me back to like a nostalgic moment where like the very first time I was like 19 years old and we were introduced and I had like a private lesson with Brett Carter at his gym. And remember when I had to cancel on you in our very first, because my car didn't work and I didn't have to get like away. I was like, no, we'll do it tomorrow. I'll find a way to get to that gym.
Yep.
It's like, and like, that's what, the next generation needs. It's like, if you want to get it done, you just do it.
Dude, we were in Colorado. Drew was fighting. We're driving into this van, and Drew's phone rings. His buddy stole his pickup and wrecked it. And that pickup, like, isn't that the one that started on fire?
No, I was a different car.
Okay. Just
I had
steals
a
his,
good fire story when I was a junior in college. Everyone that made it has a good car on fire story.
steals his pickup, fucking wrecks it, and Drew's just, well, okay. And then fights. Still fights.
Yep. I was like, all right, that's a problem for tomorrow, but today we just gotta like fuck this guy up in Colorado. And
That's why I tried to eat that 8-pound burrito. Not happening, bro.
Did you do it?
No, remember you sat there with me.
Yeah.
You didn't get it done?
Dude, it wasn't good. That was the hard part. It was not good.
Yeah.
No.
That's the problem with those like food challenges. Like they're
throw 'em
never
together.
good. They're never
Yeah,
delicious.
dude, it was so much food. It was like they had a picture of a baby next to it. It was a picture of a baby next to it. It was the same
We
size.
should have an eating contest podcast. I'm not going to win.
Dude, I was thinking about we should get the fucking one chip challenge and do it in here.
Oh god,
Ooh.
that spicy one.
Yeah, have you tried
As
it?
I've gotten
I have not.
older, I've enjoyed a little more. Now that it doesn't look enjoyable, but my palate has grown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like a little salsa and stuff.
I'm not eating some Carolina Reapers though, but
Man, I
would.
did have a Yankee burrito at or was that a little Amigos? It's like a hot dog and a fried
Dude, that's
flour tortilla with cheese
dude. What's not good about
on the
hot
way
dog?
here. I'm like, all right. So I want to get into you cutting weight
Ooh.
as we philosophically talk about stuff, because that's nothing I've ever done. Obviously, in football, you're trying to build your weight up. Weightlifting, there's a sweet spot for you guys.
Yep.
You have to do a little bit of cutting depending on what weight class you're in. But
Here maybe cut. I mean, some guys cut crazy, but I think if you want to be strong, you don't want to cut more than 10 pounds.
So when will you fight October 7th, right? Mm-hmm. So when will this whole exercise start of weight loss?
I mean, generally it's just it starts all the time.
Yeah.
Like you got to be mindful of it all time, right? If I ever plan on fighting at 155, like I can't let go. And Brett knows, like in my 20s we let go, and so
What could you weigh right now if you could be 200? if you just kind of ate whatever you want?
I'm probably I've been 200 before.
Yeah, like if you're just like, man,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get a Yankee burrito with Dave at Amigos.
Well,
but
I love lifting and eating, and so
Yeah.
200 is not that hard for me to get to.
so now that you're 180, and is that kind of a weight that you want to be at when you're not? That's kind of feels like the sweet spot, and you can cut from.
Yeah. I mean, I like 180 is ideal. Like 180, like we can maneuver to 155 easily.
So when that starts? Kind of soon, I'd assume. Now
so I'm quite blessed with the fact that I'm sponsored by a meal prep in Denver, and so we're sponsored by 40 meals a week. Yeah, so I pretty much eat for free as long as I eat whatever meals they create. But like so as soon as I get back, we get our meals, and like literally that's just what we do day in and day out, eat those meals, and like the weight will drop, and depending on how quickly the weight drops, how hard I'm training, stuff like that, like we get to enjoy maybe like a casual Saturday, a date night or whatever. But as soon as I sign the contract, and we're about 8 weeks out.
So you're hitting fight week 170 usually then?
Yeah, ideally 170. But consistently.
Fight week, so you're 15 pounds up.
Yep.
Dude, this is crazy to me. Like,
Well, you know that shitty state that you came from, the California Athletic Commission almost busted his ass because he cut so much weight.
Yeah, which if you're a professional, like get the fuck out of that. Like if like that, which is crazy to me that they would even manage something like that. Like a fighter, if he wants to cut 30 pounds, let him cut 30 pounds.
Well, yeah,
He'll
if he
just
had
have
like
to,
a history of being hospitalized after weight cuts, I'd be like, okay.
that's none of the. Now you get here in Nebraska, they do some testing with hydration, which I get it for high school kids for wrestling. I understand, but a professional, I think that's kind of ridiculous. That like. Because if as a fighter you cut too much and you get your ass whooped, like I would think that punishment's enough.
Right.
Like,
and also there like, and unfortunately, like there is a talent behind it. Right? It's like you either know what you're doing or don't know what you're doing. And like I'm actually very gifted at cutting weight, which I absolutely can't stand. But it's like everyone's going to cheat, on the professional level. Like I wouldn't say cheat, but like athletic advantage. And so cutting is different than dieting. Like
you diet down to 170. 175.
175.
You diet down to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so then the 15 to 20 pounds left is water.
So walk again. You're a week out from fight. You're 170, 173, whatever. Right. It's funny. We talk about weights, and you're familiar with it, Brett, with weightlifting and there being weights. Like people are like, "Hey, Dave, when you played football, what was your best weight?" I'm like, 267. They're like, "What? Like really?" Like I'd never heard someone be so specific, but like that was the sweet spot. I was strong, I was lean, I could run. So that is only my kind of correlation with this. So you get there, you're 170. You're still in Denver a week before a fight.
So it actually starts 2 weeks out.
Okay.
So 2 weeks out, we start doing
I love this stuff.
2 gallons of water a day. You start just chugging water. And I mean, like, I live the life of a pregnant woman. Like, I have obscene cravings. I'm peeing every 5 minutes. And you still got to train, right? I mean, you pull back in the training a little bit because.
How many times do you pee yourself training, drinking water?
Dude, like getting stuck in Denver traffic while you're drinking 2 gallons of water. Man, we've done some Gatorade bottles or like the side of the car. Like it's.
The linemen pee their pants every game of the NFL. Every game. There's at least 2 or 3 guys on the sideline that are spraying water on their pants. If you ever see an O-lineman doing that, they're not cooling off. They're washing pee out of their football pants.
See, and I can't live in a city with more traffic than Omaha because I've almost shit myself too many times. Because if I get one of those shits where it's like I needed to shit like 5 minutes ago.
Dude.
All right, so you're drinking 2 gallons, 2 weeks out.
We overload on the water, and then we finish up our training.
Why that? Sorry.
So what it does is it produces like the hormone of like triggering your body. I couldn't tell you the hormone, but
to evacuate the water.
It triggers your body to like expel the water, right? And so like you kind of get your body prepped for dehydration pretty much.
Okay.
And so then when you arrive, I mean, you're still drinking the 2 gallons of water, you go through things, and then 2 days before weigh-ins, we drop it down to 1 gallon. Right.
So what do you weigh then?
So I'll show up about, let's say 173. Right.
2 days before the fight.
And then we drop the sodium. So like now our body has nothing to grab onto. Like water's just going to go right through us. So then the next day I'll probably weigh 168, right?
Okay.
And then we drop it down to 1 gallon, and then I'll wake up the next day about 165 or so. And then that's when we drop it to no water. I mean, if I'm thirsty, I'll do a little sip or I'll chew on some ice.
Okay.
But we do a full 24 hours of no water. Significant water. Food we're eating consistently the entire time because
greens.
You got to be able to feel like we're putting in the work still, so we got to have the calories for it.
Chicken.
But, chicken. I mean, really, it's all just protein and fat at this point. So like tuna, almonds,
because carbs will hold the water.
Yeah, carbs will hold the water. Fiber will actually hold the water too. So we don't do vegetables either. So
as soon as he cuts the gallons of water, his body still thinks he's taking in water.
Yep.
So it keeps peeing.
Yep. So then,
because you've prepped it for that week and a half prior of.
So ideally, we get to a point where our body is just very proficient at like expelling water, and then the last day we just sit in the sauna, sit in a bathtub, anything we can do to continue sweating, and we just sweat all the way to 156. And then, we're all decrepit and, emaciated, and we step on the scale barely. I mean, I've had some worse stories, and Brett's had to deal with it. So, I mean, it's the worst part, like, because I don't care who you are, but being that dehydrated, like, your body's just fighting you. Like,
I had to cut weight one time. That was for youth football. I was a freshman in high school. I played youth football, so you had to be 10 pounds lighter than the limit if you were older. And it was the dumbest thing. I mean, it was so stupid. I mean, it sucked. I was 135 pounds, 6'3", and I ate like 3 Big Macs right after weigh-ins. So you're allowed how much weight when you weigh in? If you got to be 155, what can you weigh?
You get a pound allowance if it's not a title fight. So 156.0 is the most you can weigh. So in other words, if you check your weight and you're 156.2, you got to lose that 2 ounces. And so it's like, it has to be 156.0 or under.
Do you do anything to help you shit? So like some guys would do Metamucil before football games to get like, I know you said fiber holds water, but they try to get all that out of their intestines to feel a little better.
There's a thing called Smooth Move Tea, which we drink right before bed. And man, there's nothing smooth about it. Yeah. It's an aggressive morning routine, fight week. So like whatever chicken and broccoli that you ate
is gone.
That's what's exploding out of you that morning. And so
that's fight morning or weigh-in morning?
Weigh-in morning. I mean, weigh-in morning, like that's just cramping because you got nothing in there at that point. So,
and I mean, people forget like your brain runs on water and carbs.
Yeah.
So you have like zero brain fluid. Like
I had a buddy that had a girlfriend in college that did like a body competition, and she cut carbs out, and she lost her mind.
Dude, you're
and I told him like, dude, your brain. But that's so cool though. Like, not. Again, trying to make it a football thing, but Megan would always know, like mid-July, early July, before I went to camp, like she wouldn't even talk to me because I had this transition of getting like in a battle mode, which I'm sure your wife is super familiar with. Like, all right, his fight's in 2 weeks. I'm going to leave Drew alone.
2 weeks is the mark for sure. 2 weeks is the mark.
Dude, if you're, it's crazy, man. We could probably make another podcast about the mental part of it. You turn into a fucking prick when you're going to compete physically, but you have to.
Yeah.
So you're 156. You weigh in naked, right? You got a little drape.
Yep. And we make that 156 mark. And
then what?
Oh, man. It's
dude, then what?
Huge relief because that's the first paycheck, too.
Yes.
Like, I get paid to make weight. The fighting is only extra.
And it's embarrassing if you don't, right? I mean, as a pro.
Luckily for me, that's never happened.
Yes. But I'm sure it's.
Yeah, it's super embarrassing.
Okay.
Super embarrassing.
So you make weight. And Brett's there.
Yeah.
He makes weight.
Yeah.
He adds whatever weight you lost.
There's a picture of him and I walking in Denver, and it's 180 versus 280.
Gosh, and so I've never seen him weigh in, but when you fight, you look incredible.
Yeah, because we gain it all back, and that's the difference between weight cutting and dieting. The
best part is they changed it now.
What?
Where you guys get to weigh in early, right? You weigh in earlier than you used to.
Oh yeah, I weigh in at 9 a.m. on Thursday, and I fight at Friday night. So I have 24 to 36 hours to gain it all back.
It used to be that Friday night.
Yep.
You would weigh in.
But do you not want to gain too much? Is there part of that?
There is a part of that. So like in my 20s,
Get sluggish.
Dude, oh god, like I'd finish like 4 bowls of cereal. I'd go to Who Hot Mongolian Grill, like
and then throw up.
Yeah, just I'm like dying in this locker room because like man, I wasn't eating that stuff like training, but like in 24 hours I'm going to eat all of it type of thing. So now we're a little bit more mindful about what I eat. But yeah, no, I show up fight week or fight day at 180 pounds.
The day after.
Yeah,
you're
the day
back
after. I put on 25 pounds.
Wow.
Impressive.
Yeah.
So,
and it's not even an objective now. Like I'm not trying, but it's just we drank a gallon of water. I eat whatever I want.
And I don't mean to be disgusting, but like, so you eat all that, you weigh in at 9, make weight, and you're like, I'm going to eat all this. Like, do you take a fat shit before the fight?
Oh no, your body's not.
It's
not proficient with the food.
Okay.
I
You
would
don't
say
get the
it
nervous.
holds it.
Like I get nervous poops.
No.
It's the best way to describe it is not proficient. It's coming out, but it's not anything I'm proud of.
Just little nuggies. Little nuggies.
But like, do you worry about pooping in the ring though? I mean, I know your adrenaline's up pre-fight, but like, if you
like a
gain
frog's
all this
asshole
weight,
in there, man. Just watertight.
Man,
I mean, it's a real thing. I mean, we've seen people shit themselves in the UFC octagon.
I thought I ripped my butthole open one time.
Yeah.
In the NFL, I landed on my butt cheek and it spread apart.
Yeah, that's a
I
real
had the
thing.
trainer check it, dude. I'm like, my ass is bleeding. Like anything down there as a man, it worries you, because you're like, golly, that's. I'm a schedule poop guy, so like 9 a.m., like I'm pooping. My wife knows I'll be gone for about 30 minutes. I'm going to take my time. So I couldn't imagine having to do it.
Dude, I think my favorite one was at Victory, actually. And I was in the pit, as in, like, I'm getting ready to hear my name get called. Like, my walkout song is practically on at this
You're
point.
on deck, yeah.
And, I wanted to shit right there. I was
You
like,
have to, though, right? They have to wait. They got like you can't.
But I couldn't.
But see, I think I'll go away because I've had like a nervous shit right before like my first squat, and then I go squat, and then it goes away, and it doesn't come back for like hours.
Yeah.
Man, it's crazy how that stuff. So Chris Snee used to throw up for every game. It's the most disgusting thing, and it was just like, all right, I'm gonna puke, but wouldn't do it in the trash can, over by the D line. I'm like, dude, come on, man. I don't want to watch you throw up in front of everybody, but everybody kind of has their little thing.
And nervous shits is a real thing.
Dude, I get them every time we host a powerlifting meet. I got a shit.
Yeah. That locker room at the event center is fucking disgusting. Because you have like 12 fighters sharing like the same bathroom, and we all have the nervous shit.
At least they've had their blood work done.
But even the female fighters, though. Whew, it's yeah.
So so that's interesting. All the we have time. I don't have to be out of here till 5. What time does he have to go?
We got to roll probably 4:30 ish.
All right, we
got to be somewhere at 5. So.
Oh, good for you. So, all the blood testing and stuff like that, is that done the day of weigh-ins? Like, I'm sure there's a couple days.
So luckily, like medical blood testing, that's all done in advance. But,
I was going to say.
But there is like a physical that you have to do the day of.
Oh.
And if we're having interesting stories, so I have a shy bladder, and it was developed because of the Mexico Athletic Commission. Like I fought, and after I got done fighting, they wouldn't let me back into my locker room until I gave them a urine sample.
But you had nothing.
But man, I just got done cutting weight. I just fought like it was just, and we lost that fight too. So it was like, I'm also embarrassed, but they put me in this room until I had to pee. And like, man, like I was jumping, shaking, moving for 2 hours.
They give you water or anything?
Yeah, they gave me all the water in the world, but
your body was just.
It was holding on. So I finally got to like give it to them, and then I got to leave. I got all the way back to Denver, and I went to a urinal in a crowded bathroom, and then I just realized that because of the Mexico Athletic Commission, I have a shy bladder now.
Oh man.
So, yeah, it was.
That's funny.
another beautiful story.
I wanna
was like,
hear
man,
'em.
this commissioner like loved his job. So we've got a camera on here, but I'll describe it for the people just listening. But I roll up with my urine sample, and he grabs my sample without a glove on. And I was like, wow, all right, like.
Cool.
This is not your first rodeo. And I was like, all right. And so he's doing paperwork, asking me a couple of questions, and he goes to the next page.
She licked his finger.
Licks his finger.
Fucking do it.
I was like, damn. And I'm not the only fighter in that room. So yeah,
man.
talk about loving your job.
That guy's immune system is fucking immaculate.
So in the NFL, obviously steroid testing is crazy. So like I might have told this on the previous one. I was supposed to have a test. I didn't know it in the off season. It's totally random. I was driving down to Kansas City and the guy calls me. He's like, I'll be at your house this afternoon. I'm like, well, I'm heading down to Kansas City to see my wife's aunt and uncle. He's like, give me the address. I'm like, all right. So he meets me down there and we squeeze in a half bath. I'm like, do you want to hold it? like, all right, man. Piss in the cup and he takes off with it. But a lot of people don't understand how important that type of stuff is with combat sports, football, because if they let it roll, like people would die.
Right.
They're like, man, how stringent. A lot of guys are on steroids. I'm like, no, like they don't play around, man. The NFL does not play. And now it sounds like UFC is really big on that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Even with, Dan Henderson, the TRT stuff, they're even really stringent on that stuff now, which is good. Mm-hmm. Which,
I mean, when you're hitting another human, whether it's in football or in the UFC, steroids make a huge difference as far as like damage taken.
Yeah, they really do.
I wish they had a steroid league though.
That would be fun.
Fucking sweet.
Yeah, it was called Pride FC in
Just
Japan.
duel to the death.
Pride.
Pride.
Dude.
Yeah, that was the Dan Henderson.
Pride was crazy. What did, what was, what's his name? The kickboxer that fights heavyweight now, but he started in Pride at like 185.
Oh, Alistair Overeem.
Dude.
Yeah.
So my buddy was from Canada in college, and he was big in Pride. I remember watching Alistair. He's 185 or something. I remember seeing UFC. I'm like, interesting.
Dude, he's huge. So actually, I had the privilege of training with this man, and the dude is like 265, 3% body fat, probably the biggest human you've ever seen.
I heard he's small again now.
I think he like got a disorder and he's kind of losing a little bit of the weight, but
some stomach stuff or something like that.
Yeah. The story I have with him is I was taking my post training shower, and Alistair rolls in the locker room, didn't know I was in there, and just opened up the curtain, and I'm like, so this is it. He's gonna take whatever he wants. There's no way I can defend myself. Like practically, I'll grab my ankles now. Like resistance is only gonna make it worse.
So my Kevin Boss's brother played soccer, like in Europe or Puerto Rico or something, and people not from America like. Shower privacy like really means nothing to him. Mm-mm. Like it's not like here, like walking in, you covering up. Like I could only imagine Alistair looking at you like, you busy?
Yeah.
Can I get in here?
Hey, do you mind?
Yeah.
I got a couple questions for you. So earlier when we were sparring, what do you think about this booth?
Yeah. Get my back for me. Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised. Plus he's Dutch, and so I feel like just that region alone.
The Dutch rudder, where he just moves your arm, but he's not actually touching you.
We had some big dudes in the NFL locker room, man, and it was the same type of thing. I think if he wanted to rape me, he could.
I'll just shower at home,
And
thanks, guys.
But it's funny hearing it from a professional fighter that's as good as they get. Like, you get another dude, these big guys that can do things, you're like, all right, whatever. Like Larry Allen, Walter Jones, Hall of Famer, Flozell Adams. These dudes were just so big and so strong and could move, and you're like, all right.
Well, strength and size is the biggest equalizer.
Yep,
There's a reason I have weight classes.
Yeah.
Yeah, ultimate equalizer.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I get to hit safeties on kickoff and knock them out. That's the beauty of it. There's no weight classes in football. Yeah. If there was, I would be light. Because
there's loosely weight classes. by position, kind of. You know
Leonard
what I mean?
Davis was 6'9", 420 pounds.
Good God.
But think of his speed ratio hitting
It didn't
like a
matter.
safety.
His arms were 4 feet long. He didn't need to move. He hit me one time and I flew 8 yards. I'm like, what are you doing? I was blocked. Like, you don't need to help who you helped. I'm blocked. Leave me alone.
I'm 5'8" and white. Like, I don't think I can even punch the dude.
Man.
I gotta bring a stepladder or a gun to that fight.
It was unreal. I mean, the big guys in the NFL, I talked about that in my podcast prior, is like little guys, Deshaun Jackson, Tyreek Hill, like, yeah, they can run, jump, do all this stuff. But you get these big dudes, same in powerlifting, Brett. You see these big guys move weight. It's incredible.
Well, most of the best powerlifters, I would say, are super athletic.
Gosh, man. We made a couple from Rick's place run with us one day, and they about died.
But as far as, but you know what though, you take him out and you get him box jumping, explosiveness.
Yes, they could jump.
Like I was talking about,
Cartoon was one of them. He could do a bunch of crazy stuff. Red was one of them. But as far as moving, same with fighting. Like when you get to moving around, fatigue becomes an issue. You know.
But it's a specialization. You know, Drew's not throwing a football.
Yeah.
You know, but I trained with Justin Groffs.
His conditioning though is probably.
Oh yeah, I trained with Justin Groffs for a long time, and Justin was the most immobile person until you put him in a powerlifting position. And then he would squat 135 the same he would squat 1100, and it all looked the same.
Jeez.
But he was explosive. I was like, "Hey, you want to do some box jumps?" He was like, "Okay," and it was like nothing.
It's
really
just because I mean, to be that strong, you have to be explosive.
It's crazy to think about spatial awareness too. Like you in an octagon, knowing where you're at. You've done this for so long now. I played basketball in intramurals, and they passed it to me one time under the rim, and I ducked. Like, because I don't know the shape of a basketball court, and the ball just went straight out of bounds. Mm-hmm. But, like, you have that, you learn these things as you're involved with it, like weightlifting for him.
It's
like
that proprioception.
It was just a movement for him, no matter what the weight was.
And that's where, we talk about, like, all the gyms have mirrors, and that's terrible, I think. Like, your proprioception. I think about if you just trained in like a half cage and the other half of it was a mirror and you just watch yourself the whole time. Yeah. You don't learn your body awareness of where you're at.
Right. Or a lot of these fighters, like they're actually like sparring in like an open mat. And it's like, man, the knowledge of like where you're at in an octagon is ideal. I mean, like, or like offsides, like knowing where to place your feet to make that catch, like.
Oh yeah, watching those receivers drop their feet in bounds is like the craziest shit.
Coughlin would have refs at every practice and would chart all the penalties just to. And he called me in the office one day. He's like, "You were lined up offsides 4 times yesterday." I was like, "Well, have you seen me run? I'm not OC or Tuck or Jason. Like I'm gonna line offsides a little bit, but that was part of it. But that like." Fighting in an octagon, training in an octagon is super important, so you know where you're at. Like you see guys when they get hollered at by a coach, circle, and they don't really know where they're at.
And I do my best work up against the fence, so my opponent better know to stay away from it. And if he doesn't, then you're gonna take a nap.
Man, I love it, dude. I can't wait. October 7th, huh?
October 7th.
Where at?
As of right now, we're in the Apex Las Vegas, but it could change.
Man, I hope it does. I'll go with you, Brett.
Man, I talked to Amber. I think we're going to try and go. I mean, obviously, if it's the Apex, we can't go.
I don't think Megan will let me go to Vegas without her.
That's probably a good thing.
It probably is.
All right, guys. I appreciate you coming on, Drew. You're always a good time.
I appreciate it.
I've seen you grow immensely in the fucking how many years I've known you? 15 years I've known you and worked with you.
Mm-hmm.
Dave, I mean, you're still the same.
This used to be like a Timex when he first started showing up here. I don't know if he owned a watch.
I didn't own a watch.
You know my saddest
cell phone.
My saddest Dave story when I actually felt bad. I remember Dave came in one day and he probably remembers it maybe. And I was like, he got traded to the Raiders. And I was like, or was your first year with the Raiders? It was after your first year. Yep. And I was like, dude, isn't it hard playing for a shitty team? And he goes, I don't know, I got cut today. And I was like, oh.
So it was probably like, so that season, Kenny and I were like 3 weeks into the regular season, and we stop here. And I look at him, I was like, let's fucking retire. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. He's like, all right. We just went home. I might have said bye to Brett. I was like, let's just be done. But I had been cut 6 times. I mean, just how you sound, Drew, like when you're a pro at something and you know what it takes, you just deal with things differently.
Mm-hmm.
You just do.
Yeah,
It's
I just
part
felt
of
like
the
such
game.
an asshole. He's like, oh, I don't know. I got cut today. And I was like, cool.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Hey.
That's what I love about this place is like I got knocked out in 2012 and Brett doesn't let me forget it. Because remember that one time you took a nap in front of millions of people? I'm like,
Oh, yeah. Right after the fight came the next morning from that victory fight, I was like, dude, why'd you just stop fighting like that and just lay down? That was really stupid.
Well, getting punched in the face changes things.
But now he's always been a good sport. He's always learned.
No, he's
I'm sure he'll
great,
continue
man.
to learn.
Glad he's a dad. Can't wait to watch him more and more.
I got my
We'll keep
first fight
supporting you.
as a dad October 7th.
There you
so
go.
man,
You're fighting.
we're bringing in some heat.
You're fighting for daughter food.
Oh, God. Yeah.
You know, I told the guys in the NFL, like, I'd work at McDonald's if I needed to. So,
Hey, I tell everybody,
matter.
oh, that's not good enough money. Hey, man, some dollars are better than no dollars.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's words to live by.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you guys both coming on.
Yep.
Appreciate you guys for listening. If you don't follow us, follow us. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble. Subscribe, download. And we'll see you guys next time. Appreciate you.